want to share with all of you my story of being a caregiver from a personal aspect. Now, I'm a registered nurse by trade. I've been a registered nurse for 35 years, so I've been a professional caregiver for some time. But I want to share with you my experience as a personal caregiver. So I want to talk to you briefly about caregiving, the changing dynamic. Now, my first experience as a personal caregiver was I was assisting my mother to take care of my grandmother, her mother. And it was fun for me because she was vibrant, fun, witty, would say some things. She was mobile and ambulatory, and we really had some very good conversations. My mom worked the evening shift, and so I would be with my grandmothers in the evening, you know, making sure that she ate, got her medications, got her in bed, got her prepared for her next day. But she and I spent a lot of time together in the evenings, and just the conversations that I would have with her, priceless, priceless. I can't pay for them. So that was my first experience with being a caregiver. It was fun. My second experience was my mother became terminally ill at the age of 57, the young age of 57, with pulmonary hypertension. And at that time, I was a full-time graduate student. I had a toddler and just so much going on. And, you know, I was like, okay, I've got to be here for my mom because I'm an only child. She had no one else to depend on as far as I was concerned. And so I'm like, I've got to be here for my mom. I think I'm just going to withdraw from my graduate studies and I can do that later. So I've got to raise this baby. I got to take care of my mom. I've got to manage the household. I've got so much. I have to work full time. I have so much going on. And when I talked to my mother and I told her, I said, listen, you know, I'm going to be here for you. Don't worry about it. I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to help keep daddy straight. I'm going to maintain the household, and I've got this baby to raise. I'm just going to go ahead and withdraw from my graduate studies. And she just kind of gave me this look and let me finish talking. And she says, no, you will not. You will not withdraw from your graduate program. We are going to do what we all need to do to get you through that program. She said, so what I ask you to do is you set that baby up in this bed with me or on the floor with all his toys he's going to need. Make sure he's fed before you leave to go to class. I will watch him, and your dad will make sure that he gets bathed and put to bed at night. And that's what we did. The dynamic shifted a little bit more when I became a caregiver for my dad. Some 10, 15 years later, my mom passed away. So my third experience, I get a phone call. My dad has had a massive stroke. I'm living 15 hours away in Iowa, and he's in Mississippi. He was determined that he was going to go back home and take care of himself. And I'm like, no, Daddy, you can't. You're going to have to go back to the Midwest with me. And when I tell you the dynamic shifted from one of being a loving father to becoming an angry man, that's what he became. Because I was taking him from his home, taking away his independence, and taking him to the Midwest where it's cold, and he hated cold weather. He did not talk to me the entire flight from Mississippi to Iowa. We're talking 4 hours travel time. He did not talk to me. He would not. He refused to talk to me. He was just that angry. I get him to the VA hospital, to the rehab center. I get him checked in. He calls off his family, tells them that I have deserted him and left him in a God-forsaken place. Now, mind you, He was in a brand new building, had a private room, had a beautiful scene of the wildlife outside of his window. I knew that, he knew that, but he just had to make his point to his family as one last cry, somebody please come and get me. But the dynamic changed more and more because my dad was a strong force in my life, a very supportive force in my life. You know, he supported me in everything. He encouraged me to do things. He pushed me to do things. He let me know that I was his child and that I was talented and I can do anything. But that dynamic shifted because now he's depending on me, because after having the first massive stroke, he suffered a second massive stroke a year later, and then 2 weeks later, a third massive stroke. So he's totally debilitated now, totally dependent on me. And now the dynamic has changed. No longer is he that strong force for me. I am now that strong force for him. So I want to leave with all of you that when you become a caregiver for those you love, especially your parents, realize and recognize that that dynamic is going to change. You know, they're still our parents. They still love us. We still love them, but the dynamic has changed because now they are not in control as they once were. They're depending on us to be in control and be in the best control. Know that whatever decision that you make for your loved one, as that dynamic change, know that you're making the best decision. You remove self out of the equation. You put God in the center, because he has to be at the center to help you to make the best choices and the best decision for your loved one. My dad passed away 2 years ago, and even though I know I did everything I could for him, I made sure he was safe, I made sure that he was well cared for. Even to this day, I still think, well, you know, if I had done this, or maybe I should have done this for him, or, you know, he may have liked that. Never second guess yourself, because what needed to be done, God already placed that in your heart, in your spirit, to do what needed to be done for your loved one at that time. Dynamics change. And when dynamics change, expectations change, responsibilities change. But the most thing you have to keep in mind is accountability. You have to be so accountable to yourself and to your loved one that you're caring for, social agencies, finances, resources. You have to become so accountable and in tune with what's going on. I mean, it can be overwhelming sometimes. But at the end of the day, know that you have made the best decision for your loved one. Now, you know, when I was younger and I would come home to visit my parents, and I look forward to coming home, and I look forward to seeing my dad because I knew he was going to roll that money up and put it in my pocket, or he was going to give me his credit card and say, go get what you want, go get what you need. But the dynamic changed. He was no longer able to do that. But in his mind, he was. And so every time I would go to visit him, I mean, here this man is totally debilitated, in sound mind, couldn't move unless someone moved him. And the first thing he would ask me, are you okay? Do you need anything? He would ask me that every time I saw him. And I asked him one day, I said, Daddy, what if I'm not okay? What are you going to do? And he says, well, I've always wanted to make sure that you had plenty and that you have what you needed. He says, so that's not going to change. I'm going to still want that. I'm going to still ask you that. And I said to him, I thank you, but realize one thing. You brought me from point A to point B and then point C. If I can't make it now at 50 plus years of age, shame on me, not on you. Shame on me. You have given me everything. But that dynamic of him being concerned didn't change. It did not change. So as we become caregivers, dynamics change. And we have to be aware of that, and we have to embrace that. So I say to all of my caregivers, especially my daddy's girls out there, because a couple of you were on stage earlier, hey, I empathize with you. There's nothing like being the daddy's girl. Stay focused, stay in tune with God, trust and depend on him. Let him order your steps and guide your direction and your decision making, and you will not go wrong, because dynamics change in this life. If you don't believe it, if your dynamic has not changed, keep living. As the old people used to tell me, keep living. You keep living, and I promise you, the dynamic is going to change. It's going to change for you and your children. I've already told my son now, I said, listen to me. While I am in sound mind, whatever you need to do to take care of me, when I am not able to take care of myself, you do it. You do whatever you need to do. Ignore me, I'm going to cuss you out. You already know that. But go ahead, ignore me. Do what you need to do. I've already hipped him to what's going to happen. Prepare your children. Prepare your families to become caregivers in case that's needed. Prepare them. Prepare those you love. Talk about these things. Have open discussions. These are not things that we need to hide. These are things we need to talk about. We need to talk about resources. We need to talk about that changing dynamic. I thank each of you for allowing me to present to you this evening or this afternoon, wherever you are in the world at the present moment. I thank each of you for sharing and participating in the Heart of a Caregiver Inaugural Summit 2022. And I want each of you to know, I know that this was a God-inspired event. And it's just going to reach and make a difference in so many lives. Each of you are special. God has given you special talents. Embrace those, walk in your purpose, and take care of his people. I'm Constance Woulard. I am a global keynote speaker. I am a 6-time best-selling author. My website is www.constancewoulard.com. I have an upcoming podcast coming. It will be premiering June 5th, The Speakeasy. And it will be broadcasted on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. I thank each of you, and may God bless you.